Hey, Yumba here to talk about 3.0's brand new relics. A new world awaits us, and so does more relic farming. But the ones in this cavern are very powerful when properly utilized and pretty unique. We have 2 DPS sets this time, but based on 2 fresh archetypes, slow units, and the brand new Remembrance path. I'm going to go through them both in detail as always, explain how they work using the creator server, and evaluate how strong they are and who uses them best. Like and sub if this helps, share to anyone that might need this info, and let's begin. Let's start with the Poet of Mourning collapse set. The 2-piece is a 10% quantum damage bonus, and this is in fact our first elemental damage 2-piece since 1.0. All other damage percent sets have been on a certain attack type, like Grand Duke with follow-ups, or simply universal like Pioneer. Having a quantum damage 2-piece with no quantum DPS in sight is a bit weird, but it's obviously for a future unit. But that doesn't change the fact that this is not restricted to quantum DPS. Do not be misled by the 2-piece. So now for the 4-piece effect. First, we get an 8% speed reduction. Now, outside of a couple consumables, I think this is our first controllable speed reduction in the game. And just like speed percent buffs, this is based on base speed, so the higher your base speed, the more that gets reduced. Now, imagine you're a non-quantum DPS right now. Why would we neglect a 2-piece and then also reduce our own speed? Are we stupid? Then comes the slam dunk. Before entering battle, if the wearer's speed is less than a certain amount, they get a crit rate buff. If it's less than 110, you get a 20% buff. If less than 95, a 32% CR buff, which is the highest crit value on any relic or planar set so far. I mean, this legit doubles Longevous' effect of 16% from nearly 2 years ago. Just good luck optimizing your crit ratio and balancing subsets around this. And a final note that a lot might miss is the fact that it applies to Memo Sprites as well. I don't know when my Memo Sprites guides will be out, as I have a million things to record and edit, but just know that most relics will not apply a bunch of their buffs to both the wearer and the Memo Sprite. So having this set apply to both could be major for future Remembrance units. Now, you're probably wondering, does the buff last? Yes. This has no turn duration indicated or present in game. It is simply in effect if you satisfy its conditions before the start of battle, and it lasts the whole fight. So now here's me applying a speed buff to a unit that already satisfied its condition. It still works because their speed was less than 95 before entering. And here is Roame's talent in effect, which passively gives 10% speed to the whole team excluding herself. This applies at the very start of battle, so it still won't break this set's effects, as again, it's calculated before entering battle. So who can get to 95 or lower speed? Well, first off, 5 units satisfy this without any speed reduction. Clara, Japard, Yunli, Hook, and Preservation MC all sit at 95 or lower speed. Now, if we reverse the 8% speed reduction, we have a limit of 103 base speed. Units at 103 base speed or lower can use the set at its maximum power, because with 103 base speed and an 80% reduction, you're sitting at just under 95 speed. Starting from 104 and higher, and you miss the threshold. So adding all the units that follow this limit, and here we have all the units that can maximize this set's effects. Now of course, a lot of these are sustains, but we have some DPS here and there. Do remember this means any speed substack could now possibly brick this set for you. Sure, you could sit at 94 speed thanks to the 8% speed reduction, but what about that juicy 2 speed subset you just rolled? Boom, bye bye 12% crit rate. This set actively goes against the golden speed subsets that nearly every unit has wanted to chase. So even if calculations show it to be top tier, that doesn't mean your relic luck will let it be top tier. And on the same topic of extra speed bricking the set, this also applies to traces. Jingliu, for example, sits at 96 base speed. 8% speed reduction brings her to 88.32. If you've activated all of her speed traces, which is normal for a traditional Jingliu, then she goes to 97.32 and cannot maximize this set. Same goes for the brand new The Hurter. 99 speed dropping down to 91.08, but going back up to 96.08 with traces maxed. If you want to use a set on her, you'd have to not unlock a speed trace node whilst also avoiding speed subsets. Sounds like too much of a hassle to me. As for the 110 speed, I believe everyone in the game can currently hit it with the reduction, and therefore gain that 20% CR. This is of course if and only if they aren't building speed above it in substats or main stats. And a final note on the speed reduction is you can actually miss a turn in a cycle if you are too slow. Going fast is instrumental for getting extra actions in a cycle, but you can actually go too slow in a cycle as well. At 90 speed it happens quite late, so it might not actually impact you, but the lower your speed, the earlier the missing action happens. This is already possible with Clara, and with such a big speed reduction on the Relic set, you can miss turns in certain cycles. Basically, you might need some speed subsets to not lose turns, and that can devalue how powerful this set really is. So when I'm calculating, I will take into account speed subsets when necessary. So this set becomes a bit problematic. Is it worth dropping all this speed? Is it worth the 20% CR for non-quantum DPS? Let's go and find out who can use the set and how much better it can be. So first off, units that are incentivized to run slow can abuse these relics. For example, our counter units, Clara and Yun Li. For Clara, this set is a 5 to 8% DPS increase over 4-piece champion when including its ramp up, and is by far her new best in slot. She had really terrible options since nothing new seemed to stick with her and probably upgrade her. With this set, the 32% CR buff is just too powerful to ignore. But if running her without action advance from Sunday or Sparkle, you'll actually want to get some speed subsets on her to avoid her being too slow. Yun Li, on the contrary, already has Duke and Valorous, and we farmed so much of that already, haven't we? Well, assuming you swap to a crit damage chest and get crit rate subs out the wazoo, this set is a new alternative best in slot for Yun Li, being slightly weaker than Valorous and just about beating out Duke. Basically, on her, you can use either 3 of these relic sets and they'll work nicely, which is cool for her farming efficiency. Again though, watch out for the speed if not paired with an advanced spammer, as losing crit, attack to speed goals can hurt the effectiveness of this set and drop it to around 2-piece combo level. Secondly, units that can run slow builds can now use this, for example Jade and Acheron. Units that don't necessarily need to take their turn to pop off and instead have their damage ramped up and enabled by their teammates can use this set. Jade has to dodge every single speed substat possible as she is 1 substat away from going past 95 speed. But if she does so, and also gets insane substat rolls, you have a new best in slot damage-wise. Versus Duke, I found it to be 3.2% better, which is not bad, and it would get better when considering a Robin in the calculations, as she would devalue the attack center turn. Just make sure any speed tuning you've done isn't messed up with her going slow. Sure, extra damage is cool, but is it really if your main DPS misses out on a breakpoint now that Jade applies her speed buff a bit later on? As for Acheron, her on a slow build with Poet over Pioneer gets a 2.5% DPS increase whilst also gaining better consistency. This set could be used in the case of a fast 2-980 team or a hyperspeed Sparkle or Sunday team. But remember that different compositions and speed tuning result in DPS increases or losses as well. If you run a 135 speed Acheron with a 134 Sunday, stick to Pioneer. Because going base speed Acheron with 160 Sunday means that the Poet set becomes best in slot, sure. But again, it's 2.5%. The loss of damage from swapping from a -1 speed Sunday to a fast Sunday is drastic compared to that. And so third, let's look at units that can run slow builds thanks to supports. For example, if I'm using a slow Qingshui or Lune with a Sparkle and or Sunday, DPS are running at base speed. They can therefore get this set's 32% CR while still taking as many turns as the Harmony unit takes thanks to their action advance. This could also be a thing with units paired with the permanent speed buffer like Jade or E2 Bronya with skill spam. Finally, some action advance spamming 0-cycle compositions run the DPS at base speed. They get so many extra actions from the supports like Robin and Sunday that speed isn't necessary anymore. In these cases, this set could be a really nice one to have in the back pocket if not using win set shenanigans. So for some DPS, Lune can run 135 with 134 Sunday, but he can also run base speed if you're using Sparkle and also with Sunday again. And I mean, the guy has been crying since 1.4 with his best in slots being stuff like Musketeer or 2-piece combos. So if running base speed Lune, this set can see a 5.9% increase over the imaginary 4-piece when considering decent Imprison uptime. This set is stronger and also doesn't have inconsistency, which is great news. If you were using a 2-piece mix instead, then you get an even bigger calculated increase. With Qingshui base speed as a Quantum DPS example, this set can even beat out the OG Quantum set, even versus Quantum enemies. So if you can hit it, and it's good strategy, and works with your team comp, then go ahead with this new set. Don't however ruin your build and turn order and action count for crit rate. -1 speed setups with Sunday, for example again, are most of the time more powerful than hyperspeed Sunday. And these points become even more important for the 20% CR achieved if your DPS is above 95 but below 110 speed pre-combat. You'd be farming a 4-piece to get a tiny increase over 2-piece mixes, and 2-piece mixes are way easier to get better subsets on than a brand new Relic set. And again, 96 to 109 speed needs an action advanced spammer or perma speed buff to function. And again, bricking your support setup for only 20% CR is not the way to go. So for those that cannot hit the 32% crit rate buff, I would advise against this set unless you're Quantum and can use the 2-piece, or your Remembrance and can use the 4-piece for your Memosprite. Hero of Triumphant Song is our next set and is much simpler. The 2-piece is our standard attack 2-piece, which is cool for farming efficiency. This is now our 4th relic set with this bonus. The 4-piece gives buffs based on Memosprites, so already unlucky if you don't care for Remembrance units, but I mean, they're pretty cool. This makes that 2-piece even better though, since at least you have a consolation prize. So when the wearer's Memosprite is on the field, the wearer will get a 6% speed buff, just like a Hackerspace or Sakados 2-piece, but you gotta make sure they stay alive, because Memosprites can die in combat. Also, not every Memosprite can be summoned immediately, at least Remembrance MCs cannot, so this means the speed might not be immediately active. Then, when the wearer's Memosprite attacks, both the wearer and the Memosprite will get a 2-turn 30% crit damage buff. Unless your Memosprite attacks once a century, this is going to have permanent uptime. So we have Attack Percent, which will apply to the wearer and Memosprite since it's out of combat. Then we have speed for the wearer. And then we have crit damage for both again, as indicated from the effects. Since most Relic sets' 4-piece effects do not benefit Memosprites, this will therefore be the de facto best in slot for Remembrance crit DPS if they cannot use the Poet set. So Aglaia, for instance. This is also a reason why 2-piece mixes gain value with Remembrance units. Their 2-piece effects will nearly always apply to both the wearer and Memosprites, which means most units of this path will want 2-piece sets if you don't have a good Memosprite functioning 4-piece set. Aglaia calculations will come when she's ready in a few weeks and when I do her guide, but her and future Remembrance DPS or Sub DPS can be saved with this set, so it's a great save farm if you want to invest into this path. Remembrance MC can also use this set straight away if you want, though I have other recommendations that I prefer. Check out my guide on them if you haven't already. So let me know your thoughts on the new Relic sets below. Are you going to farm them for your Clara or your new potential Remembrance characters? Maybe your low speed DPS? Anyway, thanks to my amazing YouTube members, thanks for watching, and have a Guoba day.